heroes have to be good guys? No, they don't. Hey guys, how are you doing today? It's P.E. Gilbert, your blogger, writing consultant, and the author to the fantasy novella, The Sultan's Daughter. And today we shall look at 10 ways on how to create the ultimate anti-hero. But before we go any further with today's video, hit that subscribe button. The difference between a hero and an anti-hero. In one of the first videos in our writing tips series, we looked at 9 tips on how to create the ultimate protagonist. In that video, we focused on how to create more traditional sorts of main characters / heroes. And the 9 tips were: 1. Give the main character a goal and a reason for it. 2. Decide the main character's endpoint. 3. Decide the main character's starting point. 4. Create a story arc for the main character. 5. Give the main character a blend of positive and negative traits. 6. Give the main character a flaw. 7. Make the main character internally conflicted. 8. Decide the age, gender and status of the main character. And 9. Give the main character a backstory. So what, you may ask, is the difference between a hero and an anti-hero? Well, in terms of approach, not much really, as the 9 tips apply for you to create your anti-hero, with one notable exception. Generally speaking, more traditional sorts of heroes tend to have stereotypically positive traits, such as being kind, honourable and loyal, to name a few, as these make him likeable in the audience's eyes, while his flaws and or internal conflicts make him human, three-dimensional and engaging. However, your main character does not need to have a stereotypically positive trait to be multifaceted and engaging. This is where anti-heroes come in, because if you are a brave writer and want to make your main character not such a good guy, you need to give him an overarching, stereotypically negative trait or two. In this video, we shall look at a variety but non-exhaustive list of ways to enable you to create a compelling anti-hero, and I hope these tips make the writing process a little bit easier for you as well. Tip 1. Make him a liar. Par for the course of being an anti-hero is that he lies. Indeed, your anti-hero should have no problem lying to friend or foe. Lying is what makes him dishonourable at his core, and more pertinent to the plot, it is what gives him an element of unpredictability. As a result, the audience is constantly guessing as to what he will do next, as we cannot trust him. Our first example of an anti-hero who is a liar is Lyra Silvertongue from Philip Pullman's His Dark Materials trilogy. Lyra is a liar. Her name, Lyra Silvertongue, pretty much spells that out. In fact, the author couldn't make it more obvious unless he called her Liar Silvertongue, which he pretty much does in Book 3, The Amber Spyglass, when the harpy says the words Lyra and liar so often that Lyra no longer knows the difference between her name and the word. The audience had that problem long before you did, Lyra. Nevertheless, Lyra is not just a one-trick pony, or else the audience would not root for her. Lyra is oddly loyal to her friends, daring and very intelligent. This makes her intriguing and explains why the audience looks forward to seeing what she will do next. In addition, over the course of the trilogy, Lyra learns a valuable lesson vis-à-vis the truth, which changes her. This entails that she has a story arc, as she is a different person at the end of the story to the one who she was at the beginning of it. Our second example of an anti-hero who lies constantly throughout the narrative is Gordon Gordo Gekko, played by Michael Douglas from the 1988 film Wall Street. Throughout the movie, Gordo deceives at every turn, and all for personal gain. He is willing to betray even those closest to him for a quick buck, including his business partner, Bud Fox, played by Charlie Sheen. Without doubt, Gordo acts in an utterly selfish manner. But what makes his character fascinating are his nuggets of advice and his understanding of the shark-like, cutthroat nature of Wall Street trading. His saying, "Greed is good," has become part of the lexicon of the industry and has only been surpassed by his saying, "Greed is legal," in the 2010 sequel, Wall Street, Money Never Sleeps. However, unlike with Lyra, Gordo learns a very different lesson vis-à-vis the truth. He sees the value of lying and deceit as it enables him to make more money. His unscrupulous methods also result in him going to jail for financial-related crimes, but he believes that's the price worth paying, and the 2010 sequel merely proves that he's got better at lying and cheating those around him with age. Tip 2. Make him angry. Generally speaking, anger is seen as a negative human trait, and not a pleasant one either. Often, it can be a highly destructive characteristic that causes people to act against their interests. Nonetheless, if channeled correctly, anger can serve a person well, or at least semi-well, as anger does not breed a healthy mindset. Christopher Nolan's Bruce Wayne is an amazing example of how anger can torment a character, yet enable him to achieve phenomenal feats. In Batman Begins, Bruce is angry that his parents were shot in cold blood outside Gotham's Opera House, and he feels guilty for it too, because he believes that if he had not got scared seeing the bats, and if he had not asked his parents to leave, they would still be alive.
Do you still feel responsible for your parents' death?
My anger outweighs my guilt.
It is this anger that drives Bruce to do something to change Gotham. Thus, he becomes Batman to smash organised crime and to make Gotham safer and less corrupt.
Why bats, Master Wayne?
Bats frighten me. This time my enemies shared my dread.
However, no matter what Bruce achieves throughout the trilogy, this anger never goes away. It is what makes him human, three-dimensional and flawed. Undoubtedly, Bruce is an engaging character, and the audience empathises with him, understands why he acts the way he does, and admires him for wanting to make his society better. It is just as well, as Bruce is not a particularly nice person. Tip 3. Make him bitter. Like with anger, bitterness is not usually seen as an admirable or likeable characteristic. More often than not, people would rather not spend time with others who are bitter, as they tend to be miserable gits. Nevertheless, when considering how to create your anti-hero, you can use bitterness to great effect, as embittered souls can make for fascinating characters in small doses. Like Glotka Dan-san from Joe Abercrombie's The First Law trilogy. Throughout the series, Glotka is a man full of resentment and deep cynicism. Where once he was a dashing soldier, now he is a cripple who works for the Inquisition, i.e., he tortures people into confession for a living. Glotka is in constant pain, hates his life, and imposes his misery upon those he tortures. While you may wonder how having such a nature could make for a spellbinding character, it should be borne in mind that Glotka is darkly humorous, cunning, extremely intelligent, and highly politically astute. All of which ensures that Glotka not only stays one step ahead of his enemies, he entraps them so as to get them to do what he wants. This makes him gripping and ensures that we look forward to reading the next Glotka chapter. Tip 4. Make him a sociopath. No one, to my knowledge, wants to be known as a sociopath. Indeed, no one that I can think of calls themselves one either. This is because the term sociopath has negative social connotations, as it means that a person cannot feel empathy for another living being. However, because sociopaths have no empathy, they can do things in an unscrupulous manner that conscientious people would never dream of doing. Our first example of a sociopathic anti-hero is Roland Deschain from Stephen King's The Dark Tower saga. Roland's goal throughout the series is to reach the Dark Tower at all costs, and he is willing to sacrifice anyone to achieve it.
Those he professes to love.
Saruman's words apply a lot more to Roland than they do to Gandalf. In The Gunslinger, the first of the 7 installments in the saga, Roland faces a conundrum. A situation arises where he can either turn around and save Jake, a young boy who is about to fall to his death, or stay where he is and talk to Walter / the Man in Black in order to get some answers on how to reach the tower. This is when we see Roland's true colours, as he lets Jake fall in order to talk to Walter / the Man in Black. Roland's decision sets the tone for the rest of the series. While his choice does not make him endearing or trustworthy as a person, the audience respects his drive and determination to achieve his goal. However, not all sociopaths have a great desire to achieve a goal like Roland does. When thinking about how to create your anti-hero, you can create a sociopath who's just an average, run-of-the-mill, everyday kind of guy who just happens to have no empathy for others. Like Alain, played by Matthias Schoenaerts in the French 2012 drama Rust and Bone. For sure, Alain is a sociopath in this film. In fact, he is a scumbag who enjoys picking fights with other people, being rude, and acting selfishly when it suits him. Yet, in spite of all of Alain's antisocial traits, he has one redeeming quality. He treats Stephanie, played by Marion Cotillard, like a human being after she suffers a horrific accident at work in which she loses both of her legs. Does Alain do this out of love? It is doubtful due to his casual attitude towards sex, the fact that he doesn't tell her that he has a son until quite late on in the relationship, and the fact that he leaves town without bothering to tell her. Still, the way he treats Stephanie shows another side to him. Plus, it revives Stephanie's spirits, which is a joy to see. Moreover, what Alain does for Stephanie makes the audience think that he could change and be a better person if he just worked on himself. Tip 5. Make him a psychopath. If being a sociopath weren't bad enough, being a psychopath is a rung or two lower on the badness ladder. In fiction, it is incredibly difficult to empathise with a main character who not only feels nothing for others, but who kills with intent. Writers have to be unbelievably brave and imaginative to create a main character who is a psychopath, yet multifaceted and engaging enough to keep the audience wanting to read more. Fortunately for us, the grimdark fantasy author Mark Lawrence has created such a character in the form of Jorg Ankrath from the Broken Empire trilogy. Throughout the trilogy, Jorg leads a group of mercenaries who behave like bandits. On top of pillaging and raping at will, Jorg kills for sport and murders when it's personal. He shows no remorse for any of the crimes he commits. On the contrary, he quite enjoys what he does. Nevertheless, despite acting in a callous manner, Jorg grips the reader because 1. He is darkly humorous, cunning, determined to seize power, and dangerously gifted with a sword. And 2. He had a traumatic childhood that explains a lot about why Jorg is the way he is. In short, Jorg may be a murdering psychopath, but he is also a multi-layered, fully fleshed out character who fits into his world where psychopaths reign supreme, like Cinderella's foot into the glass slipper. Yeah, I never thought I would compare the kind-hearted Cinderella to a murdering psychopath like Jorg Ankrath, but what are you going to do? Our second example of a psychopathic anti-hero is Amy Dunn from Gillian Flynn's Gone Girl, played by Rosamund Pike in the film adaptation in 2014. Don't get me wrong, Amy Dunn is not on the same level as Jorg Ankrath. Quite frankly, I don't think there is anyone in fiction to compare him to. Nevertheless, Amy is also a psychopath, as she has no remorse for anything that she does, which includes falsely accusing one of her ex-boyfriends of raping her, killing her friend Desi, and making her husband Nick go through hell, all for personal satisfaction to get him to apologise to her publicly. Not for the first time in this video, you may wonder why anyone would want to read or watch a character like Amy Dunn. That is why it should be borne in mind that Amy has many admirable qualities. She is patient and frighteningly intelligent. In addition, she has good reason for being angry with Nick, as he cheated on her and may have been violent to her as well.
Why, it's not good enough for you?
It's not even close!
Whatever you might think of Amy, she is an evil genius. While we may not root for her, she is captivating, and the audience cannot help but grudgingly admire her for what she achieves. Tip 6. Make him an addict and everything that comes with it. Addiction, whether it be drugs or alcohol, has a terrible ring to it. Addiction entails that a person places greater importance to the substance that he's abusing than to seemingly everything else in his life, and that includes his friends, family, job, and/or responsibilities. Worse, when he stops drinking or taking drugs, he can be unbearable to be around, even violent. Thus, surprise surprise, being an addict or an alcoholic does not make for a conventional hero. Take Rachel from Paula Hawkins' thriller The Girl on the Train. Rachel is an alcoholic. At a stretch, the audience may feel sympathy for her because she suffers blackouts, is unemployed, is divorced, obsessed with her ex-husband, and cannot have children, the latter of which is what drove her to the bottom of the bottle in the first place. However, the audience's patience with Rachel wears thin pretty quickly. Rachel is a mess, self-destructive, and she lies constantly to hide her shame about her alcoholism and her unemployment. Indeed, she goes on the train every day, hence the title, so that she can give off the facade to those around her that she has a job. On the train, Rachel spots the ideal couple and she longs to have the life that they do. But one day, on the train, Rachel sees something different, something shocking. This leads her to find out what happened, and this in turn makes her ripe for being an anti-hero, albeit a pitiful one. Tip 7. Make him a coward.
I am a coward!
Yeah, cowardice is not a characteristic that one generally associates with a hero. That's a bit of an understatement, come to think about it. Often, a hero has to be courageous. After all, he is leaving everything that he knows behind in order to fulfill his purpose. Yet, not every character who goes on a quest has bravery within him. Sometimes, the main character is the last person who should be going on a quest, and he does so against his will, because he's a coward. Okay, that's a bit harsh. Characters can have all kinds of legitimate reasons for not wanting to go on a quest. Yet, this spineless trait enables you to create an anti-hero with a fantastic story arc, like Prince Jalan from Mark Lawrence's The Red Queen's War trilogy. Prince Jalan is a coward who spends his life drinking, gambling, and seducing women. He would rather spend the rest of his days in decadence and debauchery than risk it all for his formidable queenly grandmother. And who can blame him, really? Actually, come to think about it, he may have more sense than we gave him credit for. But relatively soon into the story, Prince Jalan learns that he must leave the fun and games behind because his fate has been magically intertwined with that of Snorri, a fierce Norse warrior. As a result, Prince Jalan must go on a quest against his will to undo the spell. Therefore, Prince Jalan is forced into a situation where he must overcome his cowardly nature if he and Snorri are to survive. Tip 8. Make him paranoid. Paranoia is defined in dictionary.com as a mental condition characterized by delusions of persecution, unwarranted jealousy, or exaggerated self-importance, typically elaborated into an organized system. Paranoia is usually viewed as irrational and a sign of a mental health disorder. Nevertheless, paranoia can also be used to make for an interesting, if weird and/or unstable, anti-hero. In the 2004 psychological thriller Freeze Frame, our anti-hero, Sean Vale, played by Lee Evans, suffers from paranoia and believes that he has been set up for a crime that he did not commit. Consequently, he films himself on multiple cameras from multiple angles everywhere he goes in order to prove that he is innocent of a triple murder. Despite being a very strange character, Sean challenges the audience's perceptions about paranoia. His actions make us think again about whether or not paranoia is such a bad thing to suffer from, as in certain situations, it can be a lifesaver. Tip 9. Give him anxiety and everything that comes with it. Like paranoia, anxiety is viewed as a mental health condition, and conventional heroes don't tend to suffer from anxiety as it is not seen as a positive, strong, or heroic character trait. Still, that does not mean that some less conventional protagonists have not suffered from anxiety in literature or film, like Rodion Raskolnikov in Fyodor Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. The story starts with our anti-hero murdering Alyona Ivanova, an old lady who owns a pawn shop. Although Raskolnikov rationalizes the murder before committing it, at least in his mind he does, he is racked by guilt throughout the rest of the narrative and suffers from anxiety as a consequence. Raskolnikov's anxiety is so bad that he faints at one point in the police station after Alyona's name is mentioned. To some extent, the audience pities Raskolnikov, and we want him to do something for himself, i.e. the right thing and confess, so that he can start to feel better about himself. Tip 10. Give him insomnia and everything that comes with it. In a similar vein to anxiety, heroes don't tend to suffer from long-term sleep deprivation. This is because traditional heroes only kill when they have to, so their conscience is clear. After all, in stories, it is only those who have done wrong who can't sleep at night. Nevertheless, when an anti-hero does suffer from insomnia, it must have terrible knock-on effects for him, including mental and physical disorders, which is best encapsulated in the example of Trevor Resnick, played by Christian Bale in The Machinist. At the start of the film, Trevor is unhealthily thin. He has not slept in a year and suffers from hallucinations. It is abundantly clear that something is wrong with him. But what is it? What is he not telling us? His sleep deprivations and constant hallucinations force him to confront something that he did, something terrible that he cannot forgive himself for. While Trevor is not the most likable character, he is engaging, as he is an untrustworthy soul, and he makes us want to find out what is the cause of his insomnia. Some general conclusions. 4 crucial factors to create your anti-hero. Before we get to the 4 crucial factors, let's have a quick rundown of the 10 tips that we have discussed. 1. Make him a liar. 2. Make him angry. 3. Make him bitter. 4. Make him a sociopath. 5. Make him a psychopath. 6. Make him an addict and everything that comes with it. 7. Make him a coward. 8. Make him paranoid. 9. Give him anxiety and all that comes with it. And or 10. Give him insomnia and all that comes with it. On top of the 10 tips that we've discussed, if you want to know 4 things to bear in mind above all else in order to create a fascinating anti-hero, they are: 1. The anti-hero must be either an outright liar or at least an inherently untrustworthy person so as to make him unreliable. 2. The anti-hero must be complex so that the audience can empathise with him. 3. The anti-hero should be given frightening intelligence, a skill that he's brilliant at, and or a pathological desire to succeed at a particular goal so that the audience can admire and or respect him. And or 4. The anti-hero should challenge the audience's perceptions about the negative trait or traits that he possesses. And that's all I have for you today, guys. Thank you for watching, and I really hope you have found this video interesting, useful, and that it makes the writing process a little easier for you as well. Like, comment, and hit that subscribe button, and tell me, what do you think of my tips? What do you think I've missed out in order to create a compelling anti-hero? Moreover, my debut fantasy novella, The Sultan's Daughter, is out. If you are looking for a book that is short, fast-paced, and full of suspense, then check it out, and then you will be able to see whether or not I keep to my own writing tips. Otherwise, join me next time when we'll discuss the somewhat morbid but extremely important subject of how to write a death scene. Until then, keep well. Once again, guys, I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching my video. I really appreciate it and I hope you've enjoyed it. Hit that subscribe button and then you will be the first to receive more awesome content from my channel, and I hope to see you again soon.